Hey, could we talk about gear? Could you tell us about your gear?
Yeah. I'm pretty basic for a guitar player. Um, I basically always use a polytone amp, and my favorite polytone amp to use is the Mega Brute, which is the smaller amp. I believe it has an 8-inch speaker in it, and I just like the way the punch is on the amp. The other thing is I just recently been using some pedals which I never really use, but I use a DD6 digital delay, Boss digital delay, and the Holy Grail, reverb. And the reason I started doing that is because I just felt like it was nice to have like some kind of reaction to my notes. Like I don't like to swim in sound. You just to have it really precise. Because like I said, I grew up listening to Pat Martino, and the attack is very direct. If you hear me play, it's very direct, and I'm kind of into that sound. The other thing is I've been playing GB12, which is a George Benson model that was only made in 1990. It was a 12-year anniversary model.
It's an Ibanez.
It's an Ibanez, yes, and that was a 12-year anniversary model. It was only made in 1990, but if you see Benson, the majority of the time he's playing the GB12. He's not playing the GB10. Yeah. I have a GB10 too, but the GB10's a little bit smaller, and I feel like the GB10 is a little too electric sounding for me. Like it doesn't have like this kind of warmth and acoustic quality. The thing about GB12, it's a little bit bigger, and it has a little more resonance in the tone. So.
And what kind of strings do you use, Tony?
I use Diodario, the medium jazz. I use a 13 on top. So I use pretty heavy strings.
Yeah.
That's funny. I was just playing Mike's guitar, and I told him it feels like rubber bands to me.
Really?
But that's the I just like that sound.
Flat wounds?
No, I use round wounds.
Okay.
I never use flat wounds. I'm a jazz guitar player that's against the flat wound world. But the thing is I like that the really punch sound, and to use heavier strings, I really get a nice punch. Same with, like, I keep referring back to Pat Martino. Pat Martino uses 16 on top as his high E. Yeah. So that's pretty serious, I think that's my
What's his low E? 7?
I think it's adjusted, but it's pretty. It's pretty serious. But that kind of punch, I really enjoy when I hear a guitar. I like to hear each individual note when someone's soloing, because I think there's a different. Then it sounds too guitar. I'm trying. I want to play guitar, but I don't. I want to hear every note. I don't want to slur everything. I want the pitches to be really clear, So
Great.
I started taking lessons right away because I thought that was really important. And after taking lessons, I started getting into all kinds of stuff that had guitar, So I started listening to Prince, and then I had a friend that lived down the street. He was big into Van Halen, and honestly, I just that just turned my world. I was like, yeah, this is cool, with the guitar I could do all this stuff. And then I just found out about myself that the reason I play guitar is I really liked the aspect of playing it at a very high level. So that naturally, I read that Eddie Van Halen was really into Alan Holdsworth, and I started listening to Alan Holdsworth, got into Alan Holdsworth, and then I was really into like all those like instrumental like rock guys, like really listened to like Vinnie Moore and Paul Gilbert and Racer X, and just like, I was totally into that stuff. And it really, I think it was going to be natural for me to get into jazz. Before I even got into it, it was just a natural progression, because I feel like that's honestly the ultimate kind of vehicle for music, to improvise and play an instrument at a very high level. So then, like I said, at that time I worked at a music store, and I was 14, and people used to come in the music store and said, I heard there's a little kid here that plays Eddie Van Halen. So it was funny. But then, anyway, the Guitar Player magazine had Frank Gambale on the cover, and I would always read whoever was on the cover. And then, so I got some Frank Gambale records, and then that kind of started me interested in the jazz, and I got some Frank Gambale, then Chick Corea, and then saw Miles when I was really young, and I was like, yeah, this I like this. Can't do it, but I want to do it. So it just started my interest. I think I just want to play music at a very high level. Just the instrument that I chose and I really love is guitar. I just think guitar is just a great instrument. You can play all styles of music and it feels good. And especially because my parents are Brazilian, so that's a very, here and around the house, a lot of bossa nova and stuff.
Interesting.
I've always felt like and that's one of the good sides of my musicality is I've always been very creative. And like tonight we played all originals that I've written. And I just feel like maybe that's one of my stronger things. And I think sometimes that's a problem I feel like sometimes with jazz is a lot of guys just play a lot of standards and stuff. And, the thing is, you want to give your voice. And I feel like if that's one way that I can actually give my voice in a genre a genre of so many greats, So that's one thing I can do that I feel like I can put some, because hey man, there's some amazing musicians and especially guitar players out there. The thing is that's just one thing I feel like, hey, I can do something, I can write a tune that I feel like, yeah, it's a beautiful tune and I can blow on it or whatever. So I think that's one of the things that are important for me, in developing.